Hello. In this episode, I'm joined by Professor Michael Townsley of Griffith University in Australia, and we're reflecting on another of our learning by doing case studies with a global retailer in e-commerce and the lessons they've learnt in setting up and establishing a digital loss prevention capability. But tell me, you're studying this, you've got a great research project that we're doing with you. What were some of your takeaways, if you like, 3 or 4 takeaways you got from the meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. So before the takeaways, let me say that I was really impressed with the presentation, and I thought that it was, I don't think I quite appreciated the complexity of that organization, that they had a supply chain that is a bit more involved or internal than some of the other retailers that we've seen present. So
the geographic spread was amazing. The geographic spread was amazing, right? They're dealing with everything from Mexico to Australia, UK, Chile, China. It's crazy.
Yeah. So that, I think, was even though we thought it was very impressive and interesting, I think extra marks for the complexity in which they're operating. So look, let me say, so my first takeaway was I was really impressed with the framing of the fraud problem that was presented. So the presenter said something like they've got a mantra about any incident of fraud is a sale not fulfilled, or it was words to that effect, and that sort of had cut through with other parts of the organization. And I thought that was a very deft use of kind of using sort of common language across an organization, so everyone's kind of on board or takes seriously a fraud problem. Yeah. And I just thought that lots of retailers could kind of learn a lesson from that sort of framing of the problem.
Yeah, a lost sale. Yeah, it was very clear. It was good.
Yeah. The second thing, so you're right, they did talk about a journey, but part of that journey was around some quite serious investments in data collection apparatus in sort of a hard to measure problem. And I thought that was something that was really telling in some of their results that were only achievable by being really, really serious about measuring in quite precise ways some of the fraud problems they had. So it was, in some senses, you sort of implied that they weren't aware of these problems, or by no means the magnitude of the problem, but they kind of really put a lot of effort into measuring indicators or coming up with indicators that then could be used to kind of shape the fraud problem, which I thought, again, many retailers could sort of take a lesson from that, and a long-term investment as well.
I'm not sure whether this is your third point, but linked to the data, I thought that one of the things that came across for me was that one of the changes that they've been able to introduce because of the team that they put together was they're able to accept more orders. So they became a bit less scared of the fraud and moved from, I think, 95% to 99% acceptance of orders, and that's generated another $100 million or something to the bottom line, without, it seems, a huge uptick in the level of fraud.
Yeah, that's exactly great anticipation. Yeah, my sort of third takeaway was that sort of once you've got the data, then it seemed to be like almost a forensic level of analysis of the problem. And so there was one story about they had quite a low acceptance rate in one territory, and they went through all of the rejections, if that's the right term, and identified whether they would have rejected or not, and then worked with their provider to sort of alter some of their risk rules. And I thought that was something you can only do once you got the foundational data right. But then, this is work that's really quite difficult and might seem quite tedious, but pays off over the long term. And they were able to get that acceptance rate up. And so I guess those are the sort of 3 things: framing of the problem, sort of a quite relentless focus on collecting data, and then this sort of nose to the grindstone problem solving, problem analysis phase. And all of that, interestingly, sort of translates into that they can automate some of those functions and then sort of really get leverage on it. So I thought it was just a fantastic journey story that a lot of people could get learnings for the way that those problems apply to their organization.
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed by the number of, or their analysis of stakeholders. I mean, they've done a really good job really thinking through whose hand do we also need to hold, and they sort of got some direct, they have regular contacts with the board. Again, it's around your framing point, positioning this work, as relevant to all the different stakeholders, the immediate ones, the secondary ones, the tertiary ones, and even external stakeholders. And they put together reports that went to the board, again, making this group highly relevant. And as if, £100 million on the bottom line doesn't make you relevant, soon gets you attention, I think.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And you can imagine taking on a challenge like that, getting those sorts of returns, and then having all those stakeholders that understand the mission and you're have great sort of communication with. You sort of then wonder what other problems that opens up if you sort of have demonstrated your credibility and your legitimacy in terms of tackling particular problems. That then opens you up for people to collaborate with on other problems. Like your second biggest problem. So I just think that while some of this might not sound very sexy, collecting data and grinding away at these problems, the dividend comes over the long term.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear the reaction and the questions from the others in the group. I think your point about the data, that seemed to be attracting the most number of positive likes, if you like, if we move into this sort of social media world. But certainly the other retailers just were blown away by the approach they'd taken to data and the amount of data they got available, which was good to see.
Yeah, it sort of seems like if you're not building your own dashboard, then you might want to pronto, because everyone seems to be, we're all at different stages, but are really taking the data bit seriously. And just the way that you can communicate that to stakeholders is just only going to, crystallize what the challenge is for any of the retailers.
Yeah, and I like the way that, at the end, the retailers sort of talked to some of the future challenges. Crypto seemed a big one. What do we do about crypto? Do we take crypto? So that was something pressing on their mind. But also, I guess, you picked this up in your research, but just the number of attacks, perhaps, with the scams coming out, using AI and language and modeling people's voices, is pretty scary as well. So there's a lot for them to do going forward.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I sort of noted was that, so it's great that you have these systems and there's this automation. I did, by the way, like the flexibility of we want the customer service agents doing less and the CRM doing more, but clearly the service agents still have some sort of autonomy or latitude. But there were sort of like these little hints of the bad actors are adaptable. So if you remember, there was one of the things was they found a fraud ring, and it seemed to be email takeover was the vector in which they were, these bad actors were taking over good customers' accounts. And, removing the easy opportunities is great, and that's what we should be doing. But just sort of, I think you need to be sort of constantly vigilant on changes in patterns and not be too reliant on any of that automation, because offenders will adapt and the methods will change. And if the algorithms that we have built aren't able to detect that, then it leaves you vulnerable. So I think, we just need to sort of always be vigilant that some of the bad actors can adapt their methods and find new vulnerabilities in processes.
No, that's great. Well, look, thank you very much, Michael. That was a really great summary and set of notes for us to reflect on. Those people who weren't there, I think, can pick up something there and perhaps come back to some of our future meetings. But thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Colin. See you.
Bye-bye. Well, that's all we have time for this week. Thank you for joining us. And thanks to all the ECR Retail Loss community for the sharing of their knowledge, their research and latest learnings that ensure that we become truly a global platform for learning. My name is Colin Peacock. This is the Sell More and Lose Less podcast. And if you liked it, please subscribe so you automatically get all future episodes. And also, if you think your colleagues and friends might also like it, please ask them to follow ECR Retail Loss on LinkedIn and tune in to our next podcasts. If you didn't like it, then let us know and we'll try and fix it. Either way, see you next time. Thank you again.